Welcome, wonderful people, to the Sunday card and rune reading, and what feels for me to be a very special reading. I know they are all special, but this reading has come about, or the energy that I'm going to say gifted with, to help to direct or to govern each of the three readings that I'm going to be doing today, came in a very special way. So we have been gifted. You can see it, you can tell by these little pieces of tree that I am living in the Northern Hemisphere. You'll probably also tell from my accent, although I suppose I could be anywhere. But I was walking yesterday and made a very strong connection with certain trees and was gifted very clear messages from them. The first tree I connected with was this piece, and it's an ash tree. Ash trees in the UK have actually started to be hit quite hard by the dieback disease, which is affecting many trees, and we don't quite know how many it's going to continue to affect. A very powerful message came through with the ash. When I used to live in Devon, and when I was living there, I remember having a conversation about this problem for the ash trees with a woodsman. And he said before, in the woods that he looks after, before any of the trees showed this difficulty, the year before, they literally seeded prolifically. He said, you know, walking through the woods was like wading through ash seedlings, and then the following year they had their very first case of this disease. And he said, you know, they knew. They were already taking action. They were already counterbalancing what they knew was coming. So there's an extraordinary, do you know, every hair on my body is standing on end. We have a great deal of, there's a lot of presence and a lot of support in the messages that are being brought forth with these readings. Trees are our guardians. They are, you know, we can't live without them. I think we all know that we need to nurture them. We know that they communicate with one another. They are so important to us. And yet for so long we have disregarded that and not treated them with the respect that they deserve. I mean, of course, we take from them, we use the gifts that they give us. And we need to, it's part of our survival. Literally, even in the way that we coexist, we breathe and they breathe. But yeah, I'm just hearing this is an important reading. I had that sense of gravity about it. So before I read more, because I meditate with trees on a regular basis and I make notes, because, you know, I'm never sure quite where those notes are going to take me in terms of my writings and the things that I bring into the world. So, and before I do, let me just say welcome. I want to say welcome, and welcome to all of you, and really welcome and a huge gratitude for the gifts that actually I think we have been, we've just been blessed with. I don't know what else to say. Welcome back, anyone who is already following my readings, especially I know there's quite a few of you who follow the weekly readings. Wonderful people, thank you so much for your likes, your shares, your comments, for subscribing, for your support of me, for your support of one another. I mean, guys, you are absolutely amazing, and listening to your insights, your sharings, your support of one another, really truly you are absolutely inspirational. Anyone new to this wonderful YouTube community that we are building, and community is what I'm really connecting in with here, the true community of all of life. Really, all of life on this planet, the fact that we can live in an interconnected way. You know, welcome. So I put lots of free stuff into the world. It's a personal choice. It's part of my pathway. I know I've worked a lot with emotions. It's why this site, this channel, this community and my website are called the A to Z of Emotional Health. Our emotions carry so much power. And so I do lots of work with emotions. The library, the A to Z library, is a completely free resource. It is there to support anyone who is looking to walk a pathway of personal empowerment. You know, knowledge is power. So it's a big sharing, and it's, as I said, it's completely free of charge and always will be. So do check out the library, and check out the resources that are there. So wonderful, people. There's loads of stuff. Check out the information box. Let's not talk too much more about this. Let's move into the realms of the messages. Now, having spoken a little bit about Ash, I'm just going to read you a little bit that I wrote about Ash after I had done a meditation a little while ago. So Ash it's actually a druid sacred tree, and it carries magical potency, interestingly in healing and health, which, given that the ash trees are in trouble, is quite curious that they are now needing our healing. Ash speaks to us not necessarily of fast or forced changes, but of the changes that are brought about through the honest contemplation of insight and inner vision. With clarity and straight, clear vision, we can see that which we need to release. Ash asks us to do so willingly and with grace. The grain of ash is straight, and it has a powerful relationship with the element of fire. When a fire rages, whilst we may see the appearance of destruction, and this is true, it clears with a radical honesty, making way for new growth. Now, I've written loads more, but that's all I'm actually going to say. That's what I'm hearing. That's the kind of energy, the flavour that is governing our reading number 1. It's going to place our beautiful piece of ash. I just want to point out as well, you can always tell an ash tree, even with no leaves, because their branches always curve and they are always striving to move upwards. Very beautiful. I think, can you see the curve in that? It's a natural curve. It's really beautiful. You can always tell an ash tree, as I said. It's one of the ways that you can see that. We place that there. The next tree that really spoke to me was hazel. And you can see, even we haven't actually even got to the spring equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere, and our weather is fairly changeable at the moment, but here we have this wonderful piece of hazel and already showing signs of growth and fertility. Let me read to you something that I wrote in meditation from the hazel. Hazel teaches us that we can rise again. Recovery and new growth are not only possible, but we come back up in strength. There are times that we need to store and keep a reserve for sparser times, but that level of awareness supports us in navigating through darker periods, knowing that even if we are cut down, we return with vigour from our roots upwards with a straighter purpose and a clearer direction. Hazel also teaches us resilience and durability. We know when to strive, when to retreat, and when to bend. This is a tree of mighty energy, of adaptability, and a mighty little tree of community. Always you tend to see hazel growing with other hazels. Again, I'm not going to say any more. I've written a lot more about hazel, but that's all I'm going to say for this reading. Wonderful, wonderful energy. So that will be reading number 2. Now for reading number 3, we were gifted with this beautiful piece of willow. Willow is very bendable. Willow is, as anyone knows, we make wonderful things with willow, and it's a tree of emotional depth. It's a tree of its roots go deep and they find water. Willow speaks to us of emotions, and it speaks to us of love and a purity of love. The message that I received was really interesting with this piece. I was drawn to this willow tree and sitting with it. Now, one of my dogs is actually called Willow. She's a little rescue soul. She's had a pretty tough life, and she came, as I was sitting with this tree, 2 buzzards circled around us above. They were literally calling out. And Willow came and just sat with me, which is unusual for her because she's quite a bouncy little thing. And actually what I heard was to share her story, because she actually teaches us about love. In fact, I may even, if I can do so, they say never work with children and animals, but I might try and tack a little video of Willow on the very end. So I'll put a timestamp in the box below. You'll be able to see reading number 1, reading number 2, reading number 3, and Willow. But her story is extraordinary, and she taught me something, because we know that she was owned and abandoned by her family. She came from Cyprus. And she was on the streets for quite a while and was eventually picked up and put into a pound. She lived in a compound with approximately 200 other dogs for nearly 3 years before we came across her in a very roundabout way. And we were able to bring her over. And, well, I say we were, somebody organised that for us, which was amazing. I mean, that's how we came across her. But what I realised, they say that every 1 year is the equivalent of, it's like a 7-year ratio in a dog's life to 1 year of ours. So that means that 3 years in a compound, effectively, you could sort of say like a prison environment, is the equivalent of 21 of our years. That's the equivalent of a life sentence on good behaviour. And the thing that strikes me about Willow, and you'll see it in the video, is her willingness to engage, her desire to please, her gratitude for everything. Now, if I think of that from a human perspective, if our family dumped us, left us on the street with nothing, we had to fend for ourselves, and then we kind of got put into the equivalent of a prison for the term of a life sentence, I don't think that we would come out of that feeling particularly grateful or very ready and willing to love. But Willow is the most grateful and the most willing to love little soul that you could ever wish to meet. And I think that tells us a lot. Now, she hasn't lost the memory of her past. She can be quite nervous. If something comes along, she's nervous around certain people. She's nervous around certain other dogs. She's actually, if we turn a corner when we're walking and there is somebody comes around the corner suddenly, she will get quite anxious and bark a lot. So she hasn't forgotten her past. But she doesn't dwell in it. She doesn't carry it with her. She remembers, and if she moves into high alert quickly, we recognise the reasons why. But she doesn't dwell in that. Her willingness and openness and availability to give and to receive love under those circumstances is extraordinary. And I think for any of us who have been hurt, we can learn a lot from Willow. So wonderful, people. That is the energy of reading number 3. So I am going to now move these beautiful gifts over, and I'm going to start drawing the cards. You are welcome to, I'll probably put a little timestamp here, a little break in the video, and connect to the next part. You are very welcome to sit with me as I draw the cards. There will then be another break when you can just literally tune into them and decide which reading you wish to see. There'll be timestamps through all of these, so you can just jump to whichever part of the video you're wanting to watch next, including the lovely Willow. So I will pause for a moment. Welcome back from that little pause. I'm actually hearing we're going to draw runes first. Okay, so we have rune 1, rune 2, and rune 3. Those will be reading number 1. And we've just been joined by a crow sitting outside my window. This crow showed up in one of the monthly readings for March that I was doing as well. He's really beautiful. He actually has some white feathers as well in his tail. We have reading number 2. So these 3 runes, so we're all still in camera. I'm just going to place them over here because I'm going to need to build the piles. And as I said, I will then lay them out so that anyone, obviously we take a photo of those for the thumbnail, and anyone tuning in can have a little bit of a look and see which pile they're drawn to. Okay, reading number 3. There we go. Those are our wonderful runes. I'm going to cut the pack 3 times and draw a spirit animal guide for each of these readings. Wow. Oops. That's so instinctive. I hope you guys didn't see that. I was about to just turn it over. I'm so used to just doing readings where we just do that. Right, I'm saying nothing. I am saying nothing. Lovely energy, mind you, I've got to say. Very lovely. I tend to be very quiet while I'm doing this, but I just like to focus in. Actually, I'm hearing that's that one. Thank you. Quite a lot of cards today as well. We're actually using, well, 4 different tarots. But yeah, that's what we were called to do. Wonderful. I love these cards. They're quite new to me. I should also say, guys, that the cards that I use, I have a page on my website now with all the cards and the runes with links. So if there are any in the readings that are really speaking to you, you should be able to find them fairly easily. There are a couple of recent packs that I have to confess. I think I said last week I'd get them on during the week, and I haven't yet done it. It is just that it's a busy week. We're at the end of the month and I'm still doing the March readings. So, but they will be up. This is one of the packs, but they will be up really, really soon. So you'll be able to access them if that's a pack that you're wanting to get for yourselves. And of course these cards also will be birthing into the world very soon. Magical Journey, that's really coming into fruition. So, and there'll be a link at the end of the readings, again probably after Willow, if you want to get yourself onto the mailing list so that you know when these are coming through and get updates. And actually there'll be an opportunity to pre-order at a discounted rate as well. It will be a limited edition as well, so you might want to reserve your pack because numbers are, we're actually getting quite close to the complete number of cards that are initially being printed. So wonderful, people. We have gathered our cards. I'm going to lay them out along with the incredible energy. It's really interesting, even though technically they are still kind of semi-dormant, although Hazel is coming through. They are really emanating something significantly powerful here for us. So I'm going to lay out the readings now. I will pause the video again. There'll be a short moment when you can tune in with each of the piles if you wish. You may already know, excuse me, which of the readings is speaking to you. It may be more than one. Sometimes it's a collaboration of more than one message. And you may also sometimes in the week find yourself drawn back to them. These readings are in a playlist. If you go to the homepage of this channel, you'll be able to locate the Sunday Rune and Card Readings playlist. And, every week I do put them into that so that people can re-find them really, really easily. And, of course, tune into others. If you're ever needing that moment of guidance, there will always be a reading there that is speaking to you in some way. So wonderful, people. Here we are at that moment where we sit with our intuition. It's been really lovely. I have to say the energy in itself has, I won't say shifted, but gathered since I've aligned the cards with the messages and with the energy of these extraordinary gifts from these extraordinary beings. So huge gratitude given in this moment. Just connecting in with the space of those individual trees where I walked yesterday and was gifted their messages. So we have reading 1 with Ash, reading 2 with Hazel, and reading 3 with Willow. As I said earlier, you may feel that you're drawn to more than one, but one way or the other, trust your intuition. Namaste and so much love to you all. Welcome to reading number 1, governed by our beautiful piece of Ash. Absolutely stunning. I think that will still be in vision. Will it be in vision? I need to make sure that we do still keep that energy around us. Okay, I'm just going to place it there. Hopefully we're all still in camera. I can always stop and adjust and go to a wider lens on it actually if I need to. Let's first of all look at our runes. Okay, so we have the rune of Gateway. We have the rune of Openings but in reverse. And we have the rune of the Self in reverse as well. This is interesting. Rune of Gateway is, it's a space of reflection. It's a pivotal moment of change. I always see this as an energy of appreciation, of gratitude, a moment when we can, if we can lean into the learning by looking back at where we've come from, we sit in a space of extraordinary opportunity, of growth and learning, because we shift energetically from a space where the past holds us back to a space where we walk through the gateway and step into a new space of being, literally. Now, openings speaks of renewed clarity, out of darkness into light, finding our direction. And it's in reverse, which would suggest that maybe there is a lack of clarity around something. But actually, with the rune of the Self in a reverse position too, I think there's a decision in terms of here that's going on, in terms of what I'm hearing is a decision that will align you with yourself. It's like there's a need for what I would call right action. Just connecting in with the ash and the woodsman saying to me how prolifically they seeded themselves. And again, the ash is always moving upwards. They're always striving for the light coming through something. But you're needing to align. There's something about aligning with your true calling or aligning with yourself. Let's turn over our cards and see what we have here. So we have Elephant Spirit, learn from the past. Okay, right, so here we are. Do we need to say any more? I'm just going to place that right here. Just here. Wonderful energy sitting in with that. And we have the Father. Lovely, very fascinating, very much a calling to connect in and understand. This for me is like being your own hero, being grounded. Again, being able to see the past for it is unhappiness, giving and receiving. Okay, we have 2 cards, Peace and Completion. just turn them all over and then I'll work out how we're going to line them up. Make sure we're all in camera. Okay, so 10 of Wands. You're carrying a lot. What I'm hearing is you're carrying more than you need to. We gather stuff along the way. Again, we have another 2 10 of Wands. 2 10s of Wands. Trust your intuition. And we have the King of Swords sitting in a reverse position. See how we're going to place these cards so we can see them all. Okay. Actually, these I'm going to just place here, I think. We'll put the Father over here and we'll place these here. That looks pretty good. Right, very tuned into what I was saying. It feels, the message I was hearing with the runes, as if there's some, I won't say a decision to be made. It now feels less like a decision and more a weighing up of something. It's like you're carrying something, you're carrying too much, and it's actually knocked you off balance, completely off balance. The card of unhappiness. Unhappiness is frequently the result of an inability to live in alignment with the calling of our soul. When this happens, our uneasy and challenging emotions are an indication that we need to listen to ourselves. This card asks you to have faith and to trust. Get still, meditate, listen to the voice of your heart, and open yourself to receive guidance. For me, this is very much a tuning in with the energy of the ash. And the message that the woodsman really gave us by acknowledging that they prolifically reseeded themselves. They could listen to themselves. They knew intuitively that something was coming, something wasn't right. They needed to attend to something. Giving and receiving. Give and take is different to giving and receiving. Taking and receiving are not the same. When we take, whoever we take from may or may not have chosen to give. However, when we receive, choice and respect are an integral part of the exchange. Let go of any need to take and embrace the harmony of giving and receiving. I'm actually hearing that giving and receiving are out of balance. So something that came to my mind really curiously actually while I was preparing for this reading. It's funny how things just arrive in your world, and it may seem like an interruption, and yet they gift us with a message. So I was in conversation with someone who I think what I was voicing to him was there are drains and there are radiators. Some people are drains, some people are radiators. Now the person I was speaking to is a radiator. And he has got far too many drains in his world at the moment, to the point where he is overloaded, overburdened. He's struggling with the depth of almost like obligation. He's been thrown out of balance, and the needs of the drains as they are being presented to him, the demands, are placing him under so much pressure that he's feeling completely burdened, and therefore is not able to sort of like see the woods for the trees. The card of the Father, I think, sometimes it asks us to step up and be our own, I will say hero or heroine, but ultimately it's like, for me, Father time is very specific. We all have the masculine and the feminine within us, we all do. For me, the mother time, the female time, is to do with, you know, when someone's got a problem and we want to be really empathic and we sit down and we listen, and that is completely right and wonderful. But if you offer that continually to a drain and you are a radiator, they will never resolve their problems. They will just continue to need your constant attention. Father time is the boundaried time. It's where we step up and we sort of say, right, we've done the listening, we've done the empathy, we've done that space of mother time, and now we're going to decide what we're going to do about it. Now we're going to set some boundaries. This reading is all about setting boundaries. What I'm hearing is you guys have got some kind of a drain in your world. It comes from the past. This is this wonderful energy of gateway. The rune of gateway asks us to pause and to reflect. And I'm often shown, and I'm seeing it now, it's like a pathway that goes way, way back. you've learned, there's a learned behaviour here in terms of some sense of obligation or duty, and I think you're carrying it through into current relationships, and it's causing you to be a bit of a magnet. Okay, now giving and receiving, very important that we keep that in balance. Again, what we kind of almost want to do, actually I am going to do something here which is a little bit different, but just sit with me for a moment, please bear with me. I'm hearing to do something. Pause for a moment and just glance at what these cards feel like to you, back to your intuition. Okay, I'll say a little bit more about peace and completion in a moment. What I'm actually going to do is demonstrate something that connects to the energy of these cards. So connect with what this feels like. Now I'm just going to shift the King of Swords, regaining balance, knowing where you're going, clarity of boundaries, clarity of mind. I'm just going to shift it to the upright position. I'm going to turn over the Ten of Wands. So boundaries, letting go of that sense of over-obligation. Okay, we're trusting our intuition, we're now in balance, and that causes us to be able to write the rune of opening. We've paused, we've reflected, we've understood the learning. We even thank those who have brought us the learning. You know, drains need to be thanked. They bring us good lessons. And actually, we have renewed direction because we understand. Out of darkness into light, we lose the fog. Fog, by the way, stands for fear, obligation, and guilt. And we revert back to the pathway that is true to ourselves, okay, which also means that we have listened to ourselves. This card call asks you to have faith and to trust. Get still, meditate, and listen to the voice of your heart, and open yourself to receive guidance. The Two of Swords in this pack, although Two of Swords is often about a conflict, this card is saying the way through the conflict is to rebalance yourself, okay? It is to rebalance yourself, and that is how you then work through this card of burden. Okay, I'm just going to leave it that way up because I think the reading feels cleaner, more directive, and that creates a completion. What I also hear is, and this is learning from the past, there's a lot of different messages coming through, but they're all interconnected. The card of completion is when something happens in our present and it is a reflection of a pattern of the past, when we resolve the current situation, let's say we establish boundaries, we actually resolve the past situation simultaneously. We don't always have to travel back to the past and sort of completely dwell in it in order to move forwards. We can actually resolve a past situation in a here and now situation. It gets put to bed, it gets lain to rest. And there is opportunity for some kind of completion here in realigning yourselves and realigning this balance, getting into the giving and receiving. If you're a radiator, I would really like you to start meeting other radiators, please. Start to assess and be discerning and draw boundaries. It doesn't stop you giving. It doesn't stop you being a giving person, but drawing the boundaries actually allows a drain, if you're a radiator, to step up and become a radiator. Because if somebody isn't there to constantly pick them up, then they actually get to step up and discover that they actually can find a source of personal empowerment within themselves. So you are actually doing them a service and supporting them in terms of those boundaries. The High Priestess. She would suggest listening to your intuition, higher levels of intuition, but she also brings a message. Things are not black and white, and sometimes we do have to just... She also says we sometimes have to leave something behind. And I think in this instance it is this pattern. There is opportunity here for completion and so much growth from it. Very tuned in to the extraordinary energy of ash, the ability to heal, the ability to grow, the ability to move through difficulty, which is interesting. And just one last little share before I wrap up this reading. I met somebody, I walk a lot. I have dogs and I walk a lot. As I said in the beginning, you'll probably meet Willow later if you wish to. And I went for a walk. I haven't walked there for probably a good 6 months, and I discovered a whole field had been replanted with trees, over 5,000 trees that had been planted. And while I was there, there was somebody planting a further tree, and it turned out that it was actually, she is the current guardian of this piece of land, and it's next to a huge area of woodland where the ash trees have had this, they have this problem. But it's been designated an area where they are going to completely leave the forest alone and allow it to heal itself. You know, in different parts of the UK, they are trying to support and tackle this problem in different ways. But there is some wisdom here in recognising that maybe the forest can heal itself, and maybe our interventions, sometimes they work and they're good, sometimes they don't. Sometimes nature is best left to know what is right for itself. And so this area of woodland is being completely left to be able to heal itself. And that was what she was telling me, and I just wanted to voice that to you because, again, it just came through very clearly as something that was relevant to this whole principle of healing, of we can heal one another, we can support one another's healing, but ultimately people need to make a decision to heal themselves as well. And if you are a radiator, you will give a lot, and sometimes your giving inadvertently stops people from actually stepping into that space. That's their journey if they choose to or they don't choose to. Either way, it's not your burden to carry. So wonderful, people. This has turned out to be an extraordinary reading. So many messages coming through. And yes, I think we must truly sit in appreciation and awe of our brothers and sisters. Namaste. Welcome to reading number 2. And the wonderful gift of Hazel already showing through, even though we are not yet really in spring. So let's look at our runes. We have the rune of possessions, nourishment in reverse. We have the rune of journey, and we have the rune of signals. This is suggesting that you're blocked from being able to receive in some way. There's some problem within that is, and you are being asked to journey within. The rune of journey, sometimes it can mean external journeys, but as a general rule, it's about travelling within and removing any obstacles within ourselves that are blocking us from moving forwards, from receiving, from stepping into our fullest potential. Signs, signals, synchronicities, chance conversations, looking beyond the obvious, looking below the surface. Very lovely energy actually here. I'm very minded that Hazel knows when to bend. It knows when to retreat, when to rest, when to strive and move forwards. It's very in tune, highly, highly in tune with the nuances of everyday weather, almost, I want to say, the seasons and the weather. It's mild, so it doesn't wait until a set time to grow. It's already growing. So, and it will ease itself back if things change and temperatures drop. There's something about responsiveness that I'm really hearing and tuning into. And there's something within some of you that has stopped you from becoming responsive to yourselves. I think it's almost like you've retreated because you've needed to, perhaps. Let's see what the cards are showing up. So, yeah, Cat Spirit, claim your independence. This is time for you guys to step up. And we have 5 of air. This can indicate quite a big inner critic. And it asks you to remove the masks that you maybe believed you were obliged to wear, the roles that you believed you were obliged to carry. Trust the universe, you've done nothing wrong. Really clear, somebody's been putting you down, and this has caused you to feel you know, you've lost confidence is what I'm hearing. Absolutely. Princess of Discs, lovely. I want to say, and the card of ruin. Now you may think, how can a card of ruin be lovely? This is wonderful. The card of ruin says you're ready to come out the other side of something, and that things are not as bad as you think they are. It highlights the way in which we can get ourselves into a negative mindset, and usually because we have been treated badly, and as a consequence it's like we end up putting ourselves down. It's this inner critic, raging inner critic. We end up putting ourselves down. It's almost like if we put ourselves down, then nobody else can do it because we got there first. It's time to transform that. The Princess of Discs is wonderful. It's a card of gestation, a card of pregnancy, a card of getting ready to rebirth, to come into the world afresh and new with a greater sense of entitlement, a greater sense of independence. We'll read these cards in a moment. I'm just going to turn everything over and then we'll work out how we're going to lay them out. Right, okay, I really see this. Four of Cups. For me, in certain instances, this is a card of what I would call gossip, drama. Not always, it has many meanings, but I think in this instance it's an indication of people who have, you know, when people sort of say something, I want to say they say something to you, but it's delivered in a way that is below the belt. So it appears to be really nice. How can I describe it? It's like, you know, like when someone makes a joke, but it's not a nice joke, it's a making fun of someone, as opposed to, it's like laughing at someone as opposed to laughing with someone. There's a very big difference. Energetically, there's a big difference. It's got this flavour to it. Stuff has been said or done, and it's caused you to feel, it's hurt, basically. Queen of Cups is a call for self-care, self-preservation, self-protection. And the Ten of Swords is saying, actually, you are so ready to come through this. You are absolutely ready to come through this, come through and out the other side. I love this. Ten of Swords, and sitting beneath it, Five of Air. Moving beyond the inner critic. Okay. Now, let's just see where we have here. Yeah, King of Swords. Now, you are definitely being asked to get very, very clear about your position. Now, sometimes the King of Swords can mean that someone around you is, I want to say, not terribly empathic. Their responses are a bit hard and fast, and in a way, in some ways, there's a time for what I would call goal-driven. We live in a very goal-driven culture. There's a time and a place for it, but sometimes that can feel quite harsh. For some of you, this could also, I'm hearing, indicate you've had, I would say, quite a critical sort of father figure in your lives, actually. Somebody who was quite strict, but too rigid. They wouldn't allow you to be you. And in fact, that energy may still be around for some of you in partnership. The duality of this card, and there are two messages. One is that there's that flavour of somebody's cut you back, cut you down. You know, Hazel teaches us that we can rise again, and we rise again, and we are stronger. We see things as they are. And because we see things as they are, and we see people as they are, we're able to move beyond the challenge. I love that we have Ten of Swords, Ten of Swords. You know, as I said, the card of ruin is interesting in this pack. The Ten of Swords here. You have an opportunity to come through this, to rise above this. I think you do actually see it clearly. That's part of this transformation process. What tends to happen, though, is we do develop the most monumental inner critic if we have ever been targeted or attacked. It's such a natural human thing. It's what we do. It's part of our defense. But, you know, initially it will protect us. You know, if we retreat, if we criticize ourselves, we're always trying to get it right. That's great. We learn to do things to the nth degree, to the best of our ability. But it's almost as though the very thing that we learn to protect ourselves, I would say that we can reach a point in life where it passes its sell-by date. and at that point we need to make adjustments. We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because anything that we've learned to do, like striving to do things really well, it's a wonderful quality. We just need to make sure we strive to do things well, but not to utter perfection with a complete personal slaughter of ourselves if something doesn't go completely right. There's a big difference. This is a time of claiming your independence and of rising again in your own right, letting go of the masks that you were led to believe you should be wearing. You've done nothing wrong. Whatever has taken place was out of your control and out of your hands. This card asks you to let go of any feelings of guilt or personal blame. This was not your fault. You've done nothing wrong. This card is really, really clear. Slight intervention here in the reading, but just somebody contacted me, because this card comes up from time to time in readings, and they asked if I would do a sleep meditation to help remove guilt, and that will be the focus of the next sleep meditation. There are 2 already in the, if you go to playlists on the YouTube home channel, you'll find 2 sleep meditations. One is about self-esteem, building self-esteem and removing self-doubt, and the other is just about energetically cleansing yourself of the kind of resonance and energy that we absorb every day. If you are highly absorbent, and I suspect you are if you are watching this reading. So when I say highly absorbent, there are people in the world who are not just sensitive, they literally absorb the energy of others and the emotions of others, and they end up carrying more than they should, or sorting things out for other people. You've done nothing wrong. Whatever's caused you to carry this stuff, you see it clearly, and there's room for transformation. This is all about stepping up and claiming your independence. It is time, literally, to rise again. That's probably, if this was a reading for a sign, I'd probably be calling it time to rise again. Trust the universe. Sometimes we can strive relentlessly to make something happen and then experience huge disappointment when our efforts do not work out. Whilst action on our part is required, if we are too determined to stay on one course only, we inadvertently block ourselves from the guidance and direction that the universe is trying to bring to us. Again, we need to be able to receive. Travel inwards, remove any blocks. This is a time to trust and let things happen. And when somebody is trying to restrict you or has restricted you, it's hard to feel that we can trust and step into the unknown, because we've been taught not to trust. But I'm really hearing time to claim your independence. This is lovely. This is a period in time in terms of your personal evolution, the evolution of your soul, when you get to step up and almost like rebirth yourselves into a space of trust, of intuition, synchronicities, signals, signs. The universe is really supporting your growth. Wonderful people. I so look forward to seeing you for some other readings, maybe checking in on some of the meditations. They are all there to help. These resources are there to help. And yeah, so much love to you, wonderful people. And yeah, do check out if you want to be on the mailing list for these cards as well. There is a little box up in the corner of the screen now, so you should be able to add yourself to the mailing list. These cards will be birthing into the world very soon, so if you would like updates as to their arrival, that's an opportunity to perhaps, well, reserve a copy, because they are a limited edition pack. And yeah, we're getting fairly close to the numbers of the first print run as well. So do get yourselves on that list if you want to receive updates and potentially reserve your pack at a discounted rate. Anyway, guys, enough of that. So much love to you. Namaste. Step up. Claim your independence. It's time to rise. Welcome to reading number 3 with the wonderful gift of Willow, connecting me in with the story. And actually it just reminds me with the buzzard feathers of the buzzards circling and calling actually at that moment. These were gifted to me literally at significant turning points, or I was at a significant turning point in my own life, and in my walking sort of meditations I would ask for guidance, and curiously enough, whenever I was wondering am I making the right decision, and it happened within a very short space of a couple of weeks, one of these feathers would just showed up literally. So I use them now for all my readings. I consider them an extraordinary gift. So we have Willow, and yeah, we'll put a little bit of Willow on as a little video after this reading. Let's have a look and see what our runes are showing. So the pathway of the spiritual warrior, awesome. And we have the rune of defense. This rune is suggesting that you are developing an aversion to things that don't resonate with you. You're on a pathway, and you know you're on a pathway. You know that you are on that pathway of the warrior, and it doesn't mean that we should in any way be judging anyone, but we do need to be discerning, and we need to know that we're walking the pathway that's right for us. We can respect that other people are in different spaces, but we do often find when we really go through what I would call periods of accelerated growth, that there are things around us that just simply don't sit well with us anymore. We can't always just sort of turn a blind eye or behave as we used to, or hang out with people who behave as we used to. So it's almost a feeling of outgrowing something. I'm hearing movement and the flow of beings into their new form. The movement rune is always about the bettering of any situation. Gosh, and how marvellous connecting in with Willow and Willow's story. She had to endure so much before the bettering of her situation, but my goodness me, she has grown in leaps and bounds, literally. Let's see what our cards are showing. So we have Dolphin Spirit. This and that are true. Now this is suggesting some evaluation is needed. You're needing, and actually so does this card here as well. The Four of Air. You're needing to process something, to evaluate something, to work something out, to see clearly. So this is interesting with this rune of defense. Let's see what else we have. Compromise and problems. Adjustment and lust. Now this is, in some packs, this is a card of strength. In this pack it's a card of lust. Okay, and we have here the Hermit. We have Three of Pentacles in reverse and Ace of Pentacles. Let's see what else we have here. Wow, Nine of Swords. It's not a 7. Near my Roman numerals. Okay, so I'm kind of hearing that you are genuinely quite overwhelmed, burdened by something, troubled by something. It's quite interesting. Each of the readings this week have all had some aspect of there's some aspect of self-awareness that needs to be attended to, because something from the outside is impacting on who we are on the inside, and we're needing to shift something within ourselves in order to realign or create a better balance. This rune is very reassuring here, given that we start with the Nine of Swords, because this is the bettering of any situation. This and that are true. You're needing to evaluate. I want to say, please don't believe everything that you're told, okay? Because it may be that you're not being entirely presented with all of the information. Okay, so we have the card of adjustment. This means that there is a need for rebalance. I'm just going to move things along a little bit because I think we're going to need a little bit more room. Place all our cards. Let's place this here. Okay. And then we have problems and compromise. Okay, so first of all, there is a request to shift your mindset. And this is shifting your mindset in alignment with your pathway as a spiritual warrior. So I think, actually, to be honest, I think this is going to be fairly easy for you guys to do. That's what I'm kind of hearing. You know that you're needing to weigh something up. You're already trying to weigh something up. It's just that it's it's sort of slightly tricky, because I think you're not terribly sure whether the other person or people or circumstances are being entirely honest with you. Okay, that's what I'm hearing. And so this and that are true. There's a message to kind of stand back and stand above. To recognise that sometimes we do the wrong things for the right reasons, and that actually within a problem there is always a solution. This card asks you to view any problems as an opportunity rather than a crisis. Whenever we identify a problem, our very recognition and acknowledgement of this difficulty creates an opportunity to seek a potential solution. As long as a problem remains unseen or indeed denied, the doorway to a potential solution remains closed. Compromise. Are you in a situation where you need to make a compromise, or are you compromising too much? This card asks you to review your position and be sure to find a solution that takes the needs of all parties into account, including yourself. Right, there's a negotiation. It's not a decision to be made. What I'm really hearing is there's a negotiation to be had. You're trying to balance something up, but I think you're getting, some of you, not all of you, but some of you are getting a little bogged down in the detail of this. It's almost like, and we do this when we're trying to navigate something and we're trying to take everybody else's perspectives into account, it can all get a little overwhelming. It's like we can never please all of the people all of the time. For some of you, actually, part of this is that fundamentally you've grown. It's lovely, you've grown. You've grown out of a situation. You don't see it the same way anymore. You have a different perspective. You have a higher perspective, I want to say. And the challenge is that, let's say your vibe attracts your tribe, okay? And when we experience periods of accelerated growth, what will happen is that we find ourselves in this in-betweeny land where, I don't know how better to say it, so this in-betweeny land where we still have people around us, strongly connected to us, who are the sort of people that we used to hang out with. They have the same perspectives that we used to hang out with. But when we've grown and we see things differently, they don't really resonate with us anymore. But they're still there. And it's a real challenge is to work out how to navigate that process. Now, this happens in families a lot. And also, I mean, in lots of areas. It happens in families, in our friendship groups as well, as we grow and as we move into the world. But particularly in families, it's a good example of how this works, because I think when we grow up, to some extent, we are shaped by that environment. And then as we set forth into the world and become our own person, when we go back, we often see our families very differently. And again, we've got to work out how to navigate this in-betweeny zone where we still need to become fully ourselves and be who we are. There's a lovely energy here. But we also need to sort of still maintain a connection, maybe, with people who are operating from like a former system. For some of you as well, I'm hearing this could actually be, quite genuinely, a pragmatic, real situation where you're trying to initiate change. Could be I'm hearing that for some of you there's a work setting. You're trying to initiate some change that is really important, powerful and positive, but there's resistance to it. And you're facing that resistance and you're trying to work out how to navigate this process, because people who are frightened of change aren't seeing the benefits or the positivity of the move forwards. So whatever area of your life this is in, it is this, you're in a space of movement, of negotiation around that. And as I said, you are developing a bit of an aversion to things that aren't resonating with you, and some people around you or someone around you is still holding that former position. It's like they're clinging. in some way. They'd like things not to change. Now, the Hermit is lovely because the Hermit says, you know, I think it's about you come home to yourselves, you find your inner light, you find your inner source of guidance, you kind of know your own position. It has a lovely energy about it. There is adjustment, there's negotiation to be had, but these Nine of Swords, you know, you can sort out each one of these swords one step at a time, and you can process the experience from a baseline of, I want to say, passion and desire. I'm hearing that the move forwards within you, it's in alignment with the calling of your soul. It's who you are. It's the evolution of your soul. It's your pathway as a spiritual warrior. There's no turning back once we're on that pathway. We you know, we're on it. That's it. You know, once we start to walk in that direction, we can't go backwards. It just means we have to learn to navigate things, you know, differently. If we can see every piece of that navigation as an opportunity for learning, and we can take the fact into account that other people see things differently, this way and that are true, but that we need to be true to ourselves, and that doesn't mean that we judge anyone else, it just means that we hold our own position. I'm just really connecting into some aspects of what I would call non-defensive communication. So guys, I'll try and put a little box up on the screen at this point in time as well in this video. In my library, it's a completely free resource, the A to Z of emotional health. In my library there is a page called Non-Defensive Communication, and it's almost like a little mini course of videos that teach skills, communication skills in negotiating, particularly with people who don't really want to hear us or are quite difficult and they're very resistant and they're not very open, people who put you on the spot, and afterwards you can always think of what you wished you could have said, but you never think about it at the time. There's loads of, that's like a little mini course of self-empowerment within communication, where we don't fuel the fire, but we hold our own position. Some of you may find that helpful. It is a completely free resource. It's a membership site. It is completely free. There are no strings attached, and it will always be free. It's just a contribution that I have chosen to make in the world because I think I just know how important self-empowerment is, part of my own journey. But the bettering of any situation, Ace of Pentacles, a surge of new energy, a surge of new resources. It could literally be energy, it could be money, but it's new resources coming through to move something forwards. The card of lust, it's more than just the card of strength. In some packs, it is the card of strength. It's embodying every aspect of yourself, your passions, your desires. Again, it's being a whole person, but also carrying that wholeness into your negotiations, where you consider everybody's perspective. But, you know, whatever is feeling like it's a burden at the moment, I would say this would indicate that you're going to come through this. You just need to come home to yourself first, really, you know, work out how to navigate this, and I think you'll come through. As I said, I think there's a little bit of resistance around you, but there is an offer of new opportunities and growth here, even within the problems. So wonderful, amazing people. I will leave you with a little bit of a video, or I will tack on a video next, of Willow, just because, do you know, again, let's just connect back in with her. Of course, the resilience, the ability to grow through adversity, not to lose sight of our own centre, our own balance, our own hope, to be able to start again, to be able to, you know, she is everything in that way. She's on her own little pathway of a spiritual warrior, I think. She is so open to love, despite the fact that situations have been challenging. So whatever you are navigating, I truly wish you so much love and so many blessings. And yeah, do connect in with little Willow. She brings us a lot of learning. So much love to you all. And yeah, I will see you really soon. Namaste.